Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. Thanks for joining me. Are black blades boring? Is color and color options for your blade an important aspect of your purchase and for selecting your gear? I mean, for me, I think when I started out buying knives, I didn't really pay attention so much to color variations. I was more of just having a certain type of style of knife and to have a certain functionality and capability. Just like this Spire Coast Salt 1, it's the new 2016 version that has the serrated blade. For me, I have a certain application for this. It's pretty specific, and I kind of wouldn't mind this being a more low-key blade and not be as visible as maybe a brighter color blade. So for me, this is not boring. This is just purposeful. And so what we find is as we go along is that a lot of the black blades, not all blades that are black, of course, are tactical, but especially the all black, like this one here is the Cold Steel AK-47. This is the mini AK-47. This is going to be something that it is a bit more tactical. But even then, sometimes I still like to spruce up a little bit of color and put a little more color on the palette of the overall presentation of the knife with a little bit of olive drab and coyote brown on the fob. And so sometimes you can do that with knives. You can just add a little bit of color and not make a big deal out of it. Like this KBAR Dozer, put a little skull bead and foliage green mixed in with black. And so this is, of course, not an all-black knife. This is a two-tone. It has your satin finished blade and, of course, your black handle. And so even though I wouldn't say this is my favorite-looking knife, but it is functional, and that was one of the reasons why I purchased it. Now, you know, pretty much of the same type of design and from the same maker. You have the KBAR Dozer Hunter model here with the thumb studs, and this is going to be in the coyote brown. And what you see is that it presents very differently. It does have a black blade, but wow, this is pretty cool. And so even though their coyote brown is quite a bit lighter, it's kind of in between a coyote brown and tan. It does match up pretty well with a lot of gear, and it has a nice earth tone look. I did use actual military spec coyote brown with black, and you can see the difference between real coyote brown and their coyote brown. And it's amazing how many different types of coyote brown there are. And that's another thing, that you'll get a lot of variations in colors depending on the manufacturer. But for me, is a great everyday carry knife, and this is a coloration and presentation that I actually enjoy very much. And so this works for me. So color for that one really does, you know, create a pretty big deal. Now let's just look at one of the original or older, Spire Coast. This is the one that's in this darker blue. I'm not sure if you'd say this is a royal blue, but it's definitely a dark blue. Sometimes in low lighting, it almost looks black. In real bright lighting, though, you can definitely tell it has a little bit more of a I don't want to say pastel blue, but it's a darker kind of blunted grade blue. And so this is the 4th generation Delica, of course, with the Emerson Wave. And I like this having just a little bit of color there. Makes it a big difference. And I'll go ahead and put that side by side with a very dark and black knife. And you can see, even on camera, how it reflects. There's just definitely a little bit more color there. Now, in terms of, just obviously brighter knives, maybe an orange knife or a red knife, especially when you drop them down on the ground when you're out in the woods or camping or hiking, they're not a bad idea to have a brighter knife. Once again, that's more specific. But I don't really think I'd want to have my main pocket knife or defensive blade to be red or orange. So I think that for these applications, for a small multi-tool, something that just have a backup knife, maybe in a kit or a pocket organizer, they do really well. But they're not something that I kind of go, wow, I wish all my knives were brightly colored. Now, I do like, of course, earth tones. in particular olive drab, coyote brown, in case you haven't already told or noticed, and the tans, and of course different browns as well. And this one here is going to be kind of an olive drab and on black with a bright hardware. I never kind of understood though this particular design, why this was kind of like a satin finish, if you will, and then you have black that's really a matte black blade, and then this kind of a lower key olive drab. It just doesn't work very well at all for a defensive tactical blade, or whatever that they were trying to go for. It just kind of didn't work. But nonetheless, it does kind of have a little bit of appeal just from the colorations. And of course you got the Kershaw Shuffle too, and this is their going to be, I believe they call this their tan. And this is a little bit more like a coyote brown. Once again, every company has their variations on colors. And so we'll kind of take a peek here and look at the differences. So we got the Shuffle 2 says this is tan, and then you have KBAR say this is coyote brown. Yeah, it is kind of interesting how everybody says different things. And you would think that this would be the coyote brown and that the tan. But once again, it's not. It's kind of reversed. And so you got like the Shuffle 2 that it's pretty unique. Has the, they call it, I believe, the black wash finish. And it's kind of like a stone wash, really, but that's what they call it. It's like an acid type of finish. And it's a great knife. It's a good looking knife, and I like having that color on there. And then you kind of have like the foliage greens and the grays. Those, and like this Delica 4 from Spire Coast, and it's kind of like in between those worlds. It's not really giving you what you would call like real color. It's just kind of a shade of color that it doesn't give you the same, punch as maybe like a red blade or a more pronounced type of earth tone. And so while these are good in some applications, I've kind of moved away from the grays and certain foliage greens. Once again, every company has their differences. Some foliage greens are kind of dark and rich. Some of them are very, very light in coloration. So this is just another option for if you want to even call that color. But overall, though, I don't think that black blades are boring. I just think that they have their place. I think that I would rank that the usability of the knife is the priority, or my top reason I would buy the knife. The quality and the fit and finish is up there fairly high as well. Reliability, and I would also say that in there would be the design feature, including the coloration. But I'd say that that's probably between 5 to 10% of the reason I would buy a knife. But as the older I get, though, the more I appreciate having different options for colors, just because it kind of creates a little bit more personality, and it makes things a little bit more customizable, especially with outfits and gear, and things kind of just flow together a little better when they have a little bit more in common, especially when it's the actual color itself. And so while I have to say that I like earth tones and even some of the more flat colors, like the military flat colors, that doesn't mean that I don't every once in a while buy a brighter color on my knife. And just like the reds, for example, on this Victorinox knives, it's kind of one of those things though that I have to say there are a lot of knives that are like these baby blues or these really light colors. I kind of have a hard time with those, but maybe it's just because I don't live in an urban or suburban area, and because of that, I typically go with more subdued colors, just for the fact that it just kind of works in my environment better. I could see if I lived in a larger city to have something a little bit more, people friendly, if you will. You'd probably want to go with not something like this, but maybe something that is a little more urban, maybe like this. Or even have maybe like a blue. I just don't really care for like these brighter colors. Now, unless you're talking about like a safety orange for a knife, if you're out in the woods, that's one thing. So if you drop it, you can find it. I get that, but for going around town, I can see why you would, though, just so people don't think that, not that you would do things just because what people think, but I could see people maybe saying, okay, it's just a harmless Victorinox, or that's a little Swiss Army knife. It's not going to hurt anybody. And so, you know, it just seems a lot less intimidating when you have these bright colors, or you know, the blues and greens and so forth. And so I can kind of understand that. But for me personally, I kind of gravitate more toward earth tones and black. I mean, I think those two are the main staples, and unless there's a specialized knife for a specialized task, I kind of avoid the other brighter colors. With that though, what colors do you prefer, and do you really buy knives based on color alone, or is it just a part of your purchasing philosophy? Do you have a certain percentage that you think that, you know, it makes it up? Like I said, I think it's probably between 5 to 10% at the most that I would buy a knife, just because of the coloration along with all the other features. And so with that, thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed, for liking this video so that it gets higher ranking so people can find this video, for leaving comments, and for sharing this video with a lot of other friends and letting them know about the channel. The channel is growing very well. Just want to thank you for that. And hopefully in the near future, you'll have other videos that you'll really like that I put out. I try to put out at least several videos a day. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you real soon.